This story comes from an American businessman. On a trip to Belgium, he just might have seen eye to eye with the supernatural. Well, it was my first time visiting anywhere in Europe. It was a conference in Antwerp, Belgium. I think a lot of us Americans do find some of the buildings spooky, simply because many of the European buildings are very old. We maybe associate that with ghosts and hauntings. But that said, I fell in love with the place. The old architecture, the antiques, the whole history of it all. I mean, the hotel I stayed at was a great example. It was a 300-year-old building, all that great woodwork and classic styles. But like a lot of Europe, it was fitted with all the modern conveniences. My suite on the first floor was surprisingly quiet and cozy. It was overlooking some historical section of the town, with the cobblestone streets and old buildings. The only problem I came across in Belgium was that all too common problem of jet lag. By the end of the first night, I was very exhausted. We had a very long flight, the hustle and bustle of travel, all of the walking up and down the streets, all the excitement. But yet, as midnight rolled around, I found myself far too alert. I guess my body clock figured it was lunchtime and not sleep time. Well, by 2 a.m. in Belgian time, I was still awake, and I thought I'd try a hot shower, maybe see if that would click the old sleep switch off. And I was just drying off when I could hear the sound of a dog trotting up and down the hallway. Now, the door had one of those peepholes, and so I sort of sidled up and pressed my eye against it to see if I could spot the dog. But instead of seeing anything at all, I just got blasted with a red light. It seems at night the hotel had some kind of red light that must have been aimed directly into my door. Oh well. At that point, I did feel quite sleepy. I turned out the lights and finally went to bed. The next day was a big day. Between meetings and scheduled events, some of us crammed in Belgian waffle, did souvenir shopping sprees, and all the tours we could find. I did the whole day with just a few hours sleep and was again physically exhausted. But here again, that jet lag had caught up with me. I looked in that mirror and saw my haggard face and bloodshot eyes and all the signs of needing sleep desperately, but my internal body clock kept insisting it must have been daytime, not nighttime. Well past midnight, I was mentally delirious with lack of sleep, and once again I pittered around. I read some pamphlets, thought I would try that hot shower again, and just as I was drying off, there it was again. That dog was running up and down the hallway. But this time, I heard it growling at something outside my door. Now, I didn't think it was too unusual. I mean, I'd seen service dogs in hotels before, but this seemed a little strange, so I tried to peek out the peephole again, and quickly was reminded that there is a bright red light blasting away into that peephole. Oh, right, there's a bright red light I'm not going to be able to see out in the hallway. It's almost like a camera flash. I think I was blinded in one eye. Anyway, I cracked the door open to see if I could spot the dog. I saw the rear end of a black dog turning the corner and down the stairwell. Well, the next morning, I was checking out. There was an older couple manning the front desk, and when I handed in my card, we made small talk. I mentioned how much I loved the old style. Everything was so old, but so interesting. Oh, I did mention to them, hey, I don't know if you folks know this, but there's a dog or dogs running around the hallway at night? I guess it's possible, but we don't allow dogs in this hotel, sir. Are you sure? About what time was this? I told him it was very late at night, and that's why it was a little unusual. Oh, that reminds me, and I'm not complaining, but I think you guys have a security light out in that hallway set to nuclear power levels. That red light is so bright that even as I went to bed, I could see it beaming through the peephole. I'm just letting you know. And now the old man starts talking to the old lady, his wife, I assume, and she's becoming a little agitated, a little alarmed. Now, I don't know what they're saying because they're speaking Belgian, but something like Oude Rode Ogen, I didn't know what she was saying. He said, as if in a hushed way to make sure nobody was listening to us. She says, "It's the necker." The necker? Old red eyes. I wasn't sure what he was talking about. Was he talking about my bloodshot red eyes? I don't know if the name of the dog was Old Red Eyes. The couple looked very upset. I didn't want to push them any further with this. I felt it was best to let myself get going. I had a plane to catch after all. And so I bid goodbye to Belgium and boarded my plane. And it was a few hours later, on the airplane crossing the Atlantic Ocean. I had purchased a book about Belgium's history at the airport, and I came across a section about old myths and legends about 4 hours into my flight. The Necker, Old Red Eyes, a demon, a ghost who was said to come from the marshes late at night. It seems the Necker is a kind of ghostly peeping Tom who would peer into the homes at night looking for any children who were up too late. It was said if he found them, he would abduct them and take them with him back to the marshes to eat them. Said he could change shape from a human-like figure into that of a black dog if he needed to escape a scene. He was said to be black, jet black from head to toe, his entire body, except for one thing. His eyes were a burning bright red. That's when I realized there was no bright red lights in that hallway when I had pressed my own eyes against that peephole in the door.